Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
You know why T-Rex don't, why most people don't eat clocks? It's very time consuming.
What does that have to do with the T-Rex?
Yep. At first I wasn't interested in a brain transplant, but then I changed my mind. You know, I had planned to do an entire podcast on sinkholes, but they fell through.
Oh, God.
Yes, I found a whole new area of puns. Some aquatic mammals escaped from the zoo. It was otter chaos.
I'm gonna die by the end of the show, aren't I?
Yes. Why is no one friends with Dracula? He's a pain in the neck. Bah! Well, I hope you enjoyed the puppet show. I had a hand in it.
Maybe we should just go right to what we're talking about this week.
We got a plan?
I got some topics.
You always have topics. If I want topics, I go to the mall, get Hot Topics. Or maybe some Hot Pockets. Man, those little chemical things, ooh, heat them up, delicious.
Yeah, I could let you do this show all on your own. You know that, right?
You could.
And it might end up being just like your solo podcast. It never happened.
It never happens. The best podcast that's never been recorded.
So, there's a new column by...
Hang on. There's a new kid in town. Okay, Jin's not here. Just checking.
Nope, Jin's not here. She's all moved in.
Between lack of crickets and Jin, just had to double check.
Nope, we moved her into the apartment on the hottest day of the damn year.
No, that's not true, because that was yesterday. That's when they moved half of my daughter's stuff into her apartment.
All I know is my phone would beep about every hour or so and go, there's a heat advisory warning.
Yes.
While I'm inside a metal trailer.
Sweating is good for you.
Carrying safes and furniture and art supplies. And I'll say this, though. You know how most people, if you don't exercise the next day after you've done a lot of that stuff, you're just spending the day going, oh, I'm in so much pain. It hurts. Yeah. It hurts. Not me, man. I was up the next day and I was very happy because all the stress, all the worry, all of that was gone.
Yeah.
And it was weird because when I got home from work, I was like, wow, I can walk through my hallway.
Yeah. You are just
I have 2 new rooms.
Poor cat. You didn't lose the cat, did you? It wasn't,
No, but the cat did attack Jin, and I warned her. I said, the cat only likes me. She doesn't like people. And don't go near the bedroom because that's her room and she will attack you. So Jin, of course, when she went down to the bathroom, what did she do, Joe?
Probably went into the cat's room.
Saw the cat, reached out, tried to pet the cat, and the cat attacked her.
Meow.
Because that's what she does.
Attack cat.
Damn right she's an attack cat. And an angry one at that. But I was reading a column by Brian Hibbs about DC Comics.
Neat.
And how DC used to be the retailer's best friend.
Used to be.
And that seems to have fallen away. So the first thing I wanted to ask was about his assumption that DC was the retailer's best friend.
When I had the comic shop, yeah, I liked DC. They had a fairly decent, what they call it, co-op program for if I wanted to buy ads and stuff, they'd give me credit. For a while, they actually, when we first started, you'd get a cashback, but then they decided to just give us merchandise credit, and I don't even know if there's co-op programs anymore. But the big thing that was cool about DC is they maintained all their trades in stock. I made a lot of money because if somebody wanted to buy Kingdom Come, I sold it. I could get another one usually by the next week, if not sooner. So I was able to keep runs of Sandman in stock. I mentioned Kingdom Come, Watchmen, Dark Knight. Dark Horse was pretty good at it too. Almost anybody who cared, they had just an awesome program. Marvel was probably the worst because you could never tell when something would go out of print. You'd have like volumes 1, 4, 5, and 6, and you wouldn't be able to get the other 3 for anything because they'd take orders, but they'd tell you they're back ordered after you ordered them. So you were kind of stuck there because you could never tell when you would sell out, or worse, if you'd be able to get it again. Preacher was another good one. When Preacher was going hot, we just could order those things nonstop. DC. Back when you knew what you were doing.
And it sounds like now some of the things are not. One of the other things I remember about DC, and it got really bad in your second shop, was DC would have reorders available. Marvel rarely had reorders, and then it became their company policy not to have reorders available because they wanted everything to be in that. They wanted all their orders to be front-loaded.
Mm-hmm.
Because with DC, it's, I sold out, I can order another 10 from the distributor. Marvel part of it was they wanted to be number one on the sales chart so they could show the people in charge that, hey, look at how good we're doing. But they also probably didn't want to have to pay for warehouse space and such. But DC, you could get reorders, and I remember you specifically, but other retailers would say that they would order a little lower on DC because they knew they could get reorders. And it sounds like they're not being as good on the reorders now.
I could see that. I mean, DC was also very liberal with overshipping stuff. So if they thought that I had undershipped something or underordered, they would send it to me, and it would be returnable like in a month or something. They'd toss a couple pennies in for shipping, which to me was kind of goofy because, if I'm ordering 5,000 pieces, that means they gave me 3 cents to cover their share of the extra copies they were shipping me. And 9 times out of 10, I would probably have sold out of those extra issues they sold me. DC was also very liberal with returns in terms of if anything was missolicited, if anything was wrong in the title, if they had like a different artist or something. So usually one of the things we did every week is we'd get the return thing from Diamond Comics, and we'd go down and check, and I'd go onto the shelf and look to see, do I have any copies? More importantly, is it something I want extra copies of? So say, for example, the title was Superman. I would probably, let's see, if I had 10 copies on the shelf, I might return 6, keep a few on the shelf. It was, say, Secret Sequester of the Sexy Sinister Sinners. And I had...
What? Who's publishing that?
Well, that was one of them Vertigo titles. And if I had a couple copies on the shelf and I had no sense of ever selling them again, I would send both copies back. In the little shop, it was easy. If there were any on the shelf, I sent it back because I didn't have the overhead. And the credit would show up whenever. Usually you had 2 weeks to do it. And it always wasn't just that. What was nice is DC would send you a list on the invoice. There was the list of things that were returnable, would be returnable, but on your invoice would be a sheet, these are currently returnable. So you'd usually rip off the cover, or usually, I don't know if they took full covers. Some would take just the masthead and just send it in with that invoice, and you'd get credit on the following thing. So yeah, it was pretty good, and I appreciated the overships. It gave me a chance to, stretch with a few of the titles I might not have tried otherwise.
One other thing that DC's doing that Hibbs brings up is that some of the books they are shipping have different store dates. The Sandman Overture hardcover is actually going to have a Tuesday street date rather than a Wednesday street date. And Hibbs notes that they did that for the Arkham, what was it, the Arkham Origins tie into a video game. That one was also a Tuesday, but they didn't tell the comic retailers that, hey, you can sell this on Tuesday. But that would mean that, okay, you're going to get a bunch of stuff on Tuesday, and some of it is going to be available through Amazon and this and that and the other on that day. So you should put it out on Tuesday and then put everything else out on Wednesday. And if I were a retailer, that would be confusing and annoying.
Yeah, and it wouldn't really matter.
I couldn't keep track of that.
It wouldn't really matter because your customers are just going to come in on Wednesday anyways, whatever free comic book day. That wasn't really an issue when I had the shop because they basically would ship it Wednesday, and when you got your books, you put them out. They did not ship like they do now where comic stores get the books on Tuesday with the honor system not to put them out till Wednesday. So apparently when I was a retailer, they didn't trust us. Or Diamond was all...
Well, they darn well
Diamond
should.
was all hodgepodgey and, well, we don't want to police it, blah, blah, blah. See, they had no enforcement mechanism, and Diamond didn't want to be the enforcer. Even though in other industries, and I'm thinking mostly of like DVDs and VHS tapes, which were still hanging on when I had the big shop, if Target or Best Buy put something out early, that means they would not share in the co-op money that they got for putting things on an end cap or putting things out. There were always reports.
Or putting it in their weekly Sunday ad.
Yeah. And there were always reports of like, well, Walmart did it, but Walmart was so freaking big. Who would punish Walmart? I don't think Diamond wanted to get into that. And then, of course, now, yeah, they ship stuff. They get them to Thursday or Tuesday, and I haven't heard of any problems at all. There might be even stores around that. Yeah, we're open at midnight for you crazy people who need your comics now. But
would you have done that? Because I know that for some big books, they're doing the midnight thing. Like for Star Wars #1, they did the midnight thing. And even stores around here did it. There are other books where they do the midnight thing. Now, maybe when I was in my 20s and had no responsibility, I would think, oh, yeah, I'll go to a comic shop, pick that up. It'd be fun. But now it would be like, oh, my God, I would have to get in my car at 11:30 at night to drive to a shop, buy this comic, and it's only one book that's going to be available, and then drive home, and then I have to work the next day. It's, no way I'm going to do that. Now, as a shop, would you have done those things if they had them available?
It's hard to say because I can't think of anything that came out that would be that bloody exciting when I had the shop. Maybe Death of Superman might have fallen in that category, but we had reports already that people in New York were selling them the day before we got them, and we hadn't even gotten them yet. So again, that probably was a moot point. If I could have made an event out of it, but I can't think of anything when I had the shop that was so gosh darn exciting that people might have showed up at midnight just to pick it up.
Didn't you go to some of the Harry Potter midnight things?
Well, the Source had... I bought my Harry Potter books from the Source, and I can be cocky about it because I was the first person in line to get it. I didn't go to the other places, stand in line or, sit around and have whatever. In fact, I think Dana remembers a time when I went to get, I think it was the last Harry Potter book, and I called her up because she didn't want to go with. And I was outside and I called her phone and I yelled, I have the Potter!
Oh, God.
And then she said maybe two of her friends laughed who got the reference. I bought it mostly at the Source because I like to support them. And, I probably could have got it cheaper elsewhere, but it was just, I don't know. To me, it was important just to show them that support. They had their gaming going on at the time, so what they would do is they'd go to the front of the store, open up, and anybody wanted to buy the Harry Potter book could, and then they went out the back of the store. So they were open anyways, doing their gaming shtick.
When I worked at the movie theater, they had the midnight releases. And I was actually there for some of the really huge ones. I think I was there for the last Harry Potter movie and the Twilight movies. And it was funny because what they had to do, they would want to fill as many theaters as they could for the big ones. But if there was another movie opening that night, let's say you got Harry Potter, number 8 Part 2 was opening, but you also have like Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus and the new Woody Allen movie. They're opening the same day. You would have to show those movies too. Contractually, it's like, okay, if you're going to show the big movie that opens, you got to show the others as well. So you'd have 16 theaters filled with Harry Potter people, and then your 2 smallest theaters would be showing movies for maybe 1 or 2 people who got lost.
Yeah.
But even now, the Thursday midnight movie, I have to work the next day. I don't get that excited anymore, especially when they've revved up everything so fast that, okay, the movie's coming out. It's a huge deal, but it'll be out of the theaters in a month and a half, and then it'll be on DVD in 3 months, and then it'll be on HBO in 6 months, and it'll be on Netflix right after that. It's, if I'm busy that weekend, I'll just wait and see it when it's easier for me. And I don't know if it's the fact that I'm getting older or if it's the fact that there's just so much stuff they do that with that I just go, I've got other stuff to do. There are other things I can do.
You're old.
I'm not going to make it to the Avengers.
It's a young person.
Joe,
my daughters get all excited to go to midnight things, and I'm like, I gotta work the next day. I'm not that excited to go.
Well, and they don't have jobs.
No. I get home at 3 a.m, and of course I don't have to work till noon, but still. Now, Star Wars coming up, maybe I might get all excited to go. I'm also getting like my old partner Pat. He doesn't go on opening weekends anymore. He goes the weekend after because he doesn't want to deal with the crowds. He wants to sit, enjoy the movie, and not have things blanked out. I remember watching the second Michael Keaton Batman movie, and there were a lot of lines spoken between the Penguin and Catwoman that were really quiet. And if the theater was loud, you'd miss it. Unfortunately, a lot of times they were plot advancing points. So, you'd be like, okay, we're at a new scene. I don't get what happened. Then when I went to go watch it again, okay, the scene was set up when they were talking real quiet. And everybody in the theater was all simultaneously chewing their popcorn loud or something.
See, what's the other? Well, DCU seems to have belly flopped.
What was that?
That was my problem with the DCU. That was their initiative for their new books after Convergence. And for the light, this is DCU. And I never understood what they meant by DCU. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know what the gist of it was. With the new 52, it's, okay, there's going to be 52 new books. Or with Marvel's all new, all different Marvel Now, it's, okay, they're switching all the creators around and basically, all right, this is a new starting point. With the all new, all different Marvel coming this fall, it's, okay, this is going to be 7 months after Secret Wars or 6 months or however. For DCU, I never knew what the DCU meant. Other than, okay, it's kind of a pun off DC Universe because everybody referred to it as DCU, and instead it's DC, the word U. Is it, are these books about me? Are they aimed at me? It seemed very muddled. It was a very muddled launch. And the rumors are that sales have come back and it's already considered a failure. So DC's ending some of them early. Like Prez was supposed to be a 12 issue. It's now being solicited as a 6 issue.
How about things like Batgirl or some of the other lighter touch stuff?
Batgirl is still selling well, but if it's a lighter touch book, rumors are they're looking at it pretty hard, but they're looking at everything pretty hard because DC sales actually went down after Convergence. Everything across the board dropped, which kind of, well, I know our reaction to Convergence was kind of a, who cares?
I don't know. I enjoyed it for what it was.
I think it's odd that Marvel's doing a very similar thing where they're doing kind of a whole bunch of what-if stories, and their sales have exploded to the point where on even midline books they're doing second and third prints. But with Convergence, hey, Joe, do you want to pick up every comic that had to do with Convergence?
Actually, I did, only because Discount Comic Book Service had a decent deal on it.
You could probably still go to any comic shop in America and get a decent deal on it because they got stacks of them. Hibbs talks about how he ordered light and they still didn't sell very well. The other thing that he says, and I'm just going to read this part, where DC is faltering, Marvel is really tearing it up, at least in my stores. Secret Wars is being helped by the most coherent and fully realized summer crossover comic event in a generation. But the thing that has really been surprising is just how well across the board the tie-ins have been doing. Given that they're all functionally what-if comics that will, for the most part, have little to nothing to do with future Marvel continuity. In fact, in many/most cases, we're selling more copies of the tie-in than we were selling of the parent title before the event. In some edge cases, 2 to 3 times as many copies.
I can see that.
Now,
I'm actually, like I've always said it, podcast after podcast, I'm really excited about Secret Wars, and I'm not looking for it to end. It'd be cool. They could probably revisit it because there's so many stories they haven't covered.
Well, one series has been announced that will continue with the numbering.
Ooh.
Weird World will simply be continuing.
That'll be fun. That's actually pretty cool.
And the only worry I have is that Hickman is leaving Marvel after this. Some other creators are kind of stepping away from Marvel after this. Daredevil's ending and getting a reboot, and they talked a little about what's going to be happening with the new Daredevil at the Toronto convention. But the thing Hickman points out is Marvel, a week before they put out the previews, was that comic that said, all right, here are all the new series. And they had it in their stores, were able to give it away to people the week before previews came out. Whereas DC, with DCU, they got nothing. Now with the New 52, I remember you and I, like 2 months beforehand, were like, retailers don't have a lot of stuff. They don't have a lot of stuff to push this. And then the month before, all of a sudden DC went, oh gosh, we forgot. Here's all this promotional work. Now with the DCU, they didn't give out any promotional stuff, which I think is another reason why retailers were just kind of, well, we don't know what to order, and it doesn't seem fans know what to buy. And I really find it interesting that Marvel and DC have kind of switched places, whereas DC used to be the one that retailers loved. They were number 2, but they tried harder. And now they're not even trying anymore, and Marvel's really kind of helping out retailers, and they're pulling away pretty hard. So working with retailers really does help a publisher. Now, with a smaller publisher, Joe, I know that Valiant's been around. They've been trying to get some traction. Nobody seems to care. There's Archie put out a bunch of superhero books that I never hear anything about. Dark Horse recently tried to bring back their Comics Greatest World, and I doubt you even saw any of them.
I don't recall.
Is there anything a small publisher could do if they're starting a superhero universe at this point in time that you think could make a mark? Or is it just Marvel and DC have the superhero universes and that's it?
Yeah, I'm not even sure about that because I think they have a pretty good lock on it unless you've got a character that, well, I don't know. Think of all the characters we grew up with that we don't see anymore. Grimjack, Nexus. I'm trying to think of stuff in the 80s, 90s that came out that we were all excited for. And I think IDW tries to get the excitement going, but I don't know if anybody cares anymore. The market might be gone. The people might be gone. You're almost better off do a Kickstarter, see if you can get people excited enough. There seems to be a lot of Kickstarters that actually do really well. I'm thinking like Girl Genius from the Folios. I enjoyed the book when it came out as a comic, and now it's a graphic novel. Now you either pick it up first as a Kickstarter with some fun extra things, or if you want the hardcover, or wait, eventually it does show up in Diamond previews. So again, unless you're a rich person and you can go out and buy all these unused properties and make a universe of these characters, I think there was a book out that seemed to have dropped off the face of the earth called War of the Independents, where they were doing that. Just, you got an independent character, bring him in. We're just going to do a big ass crossover with it. And I've got 2 issues. There might be a 3rd issue out, and I've never seen anything since.
I bought it because I liked the idea, but boy, it wasn't very good.
No, and it didn't do a good job of teaching you who these people were. Why you should care.
Not at all. I think that was its biggest problem. It was more like those jam comics they did in the 80s where, here's a whole bunch of characters. Well, why should I care about them? Because there's a whole bunch of characters.
Maybe they should do like Amazing Heroes used to do and do the swimsuit jam. Just get everybody together and just have them do swimsuit stuff.
Or pin-ups. Or
send it up for the Heroes Initiative. Maybe, and if a Heroes Initiative is listening, we're not taking credit for it, but you can give us a little blurb for our podcast.
There's a part of me that thinks that the superhero market is being completely served by Marvel and DC.
I think you're pretty right. And plus the fact is people get all excited because there are movies out of it. I don't know how that's driving people into comic stores necessarily, but you definitely see more of a presence of superheroes than you did when I had the comic shop.
Yeah.
I was talking with, Dana about that. I mean, it used to be like when I had my comic store, I'd mention things like, sure, everybody knew who Superman was because of the movie. They might have been aware of Spider-Man, Hulk because of the TV show, Batman because of the 70s show.
I honestly think children are born knowing who Batman is.
I think that would make sense. But
I think it's just something where, you're born and there's something in the genetics. Oh, yeah, that's Batman.
But you think about it, the number one selling comic back then was X-Men. Yet if you mentioned X-Men to anybody else, they didn't know what the hell you're talking about.
Well, kids knew because of the cartoon.
Oh, when the cartoon came out. But now, I mean, you walk into Target, they've got kiosks filled with superhero stuff. X-Men, Fantastic Four, bad as it is, Spider-Man, Superman, Batman. Everybody knows these characters. Arrow. People are excited about Supergirl, The Flash. People talk about Constantine. I mean, come on. So, yeah, there's definitely...
Well, they talk about Constantine, but they damn well don't buy the comic.
Well, he's going to show up in the Arrow miniseries. But that's also the
other
thing.
They didn't watch the TV show.
People talk about it in terms of the mass media. They don't talk about it in terms of the comic.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you're seeing the comics slowly being influenced. I mean, Nick Fury is black. Hawkeye doesn't wear a mask. Arrow is more Arrow-like for the TV show. I think that's where you're seeing the changes, more or less, influence from the media. I mean, Black Widow is suddenly interesting instead of just pining after Daredevil. So it'd be interesting to see, and they can't do it quickly, but they do it subtly. If you didn't see Battlezone, I mean, there's a lot of jokes. Since when is Nick Fury black? but it's there. What was I reading? I was reading something. I think it might have been Shield #9 where they're talking to Nick Fury, the current one, and saying, well, geez, there's a lot of stuff. What about your dad? And he goes, hey, I didn't know he was my dad until a few years ago.
Yeah. One of the analogies I used to make back when I worked at Schindler's in the late 80s, early 90s, was that comics were a lot like wrestling. Marvel was the WWE and DC was WCW, where Marvel had better marketing and better planning and better people knew Marvel, but they weren't that good, like the WWE at the time. Whereas WCW had better wrestling, but everything around them was a mess. Whereas back then DC was putting out better books by and large, but other than the Batman books, nobody, it was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going to use a different wrestling analogy in that right now we have WWF and then a whole bunch of other guys. And when WWF does well, everybody else does really well. But WWF now, you've got Raw, which is 3 hours. You've got SmackDown, which is 2 hours. You have NXT, which is an hour. You have, Superstars and Main Event on the network. So if you're a WWE fan and you just want to watch the new stuff, you're talking 7 to 10 hours a week. That's a lot of time to watch wrestling. Then you've got TNA, which is 2 hours. You've got Ring of Honor, which is an hour. You got New Japan, which is an hour. You got your local indie shows. You here in the Twin Cities, we've got Sunday Morning Something, which is a local indie, and it's really poorly filmed. And there for a while it was an hour long. Now it's back to a half hour. And there are a lot of times where I'm just tired. I've watched enough wrestling. I'm going to erase the Sunday morning show. And I've given up on TNA. I'm not watching that anymore. But I'll watch Ring of Honor. I'll watch New Japan. And I'll watch maybe Raw and SmackDown. I'll watch the matches because the rest of SmackDown is just recapping what happened on Raw. And that's a lot of wrestling. With superheroes, DC's putting out over 60 superhero books. Marvel's putting out over 60 superhero books. That's a lot of superheroes. So if I want to read superheroes, Marvel and DC are putting out more than enough to cover my needs. And the other comics, I go to indies to read other stuff. Invincible may be a great book. Butch is pushing it all the time. But by the time I get done reading the Marvel stuff, it's like I've read enough superhero connected universe stuff. I want to read stories. I want to read new ideas. I want to read something different. And I think that's what happens with like Valiant and Dark Horse and Archie, where people look at their new superhero universe and go, if I want to read a superhero book, I'll go to these people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to, I don't need so many superhero books that I'm going to, tumble down and read, stuff from 5 or 6 different companies.
So we're not holding on to a hero till the end of the time.
I felt the same way in the early 90s when everybody had a superhero universe. I didn't get into the Malibu universe because it was I would follow the creators I liked, like when Steve Gerber was there, I read his stuff. When Steve Englehart was there, I read his stuff. But I'm not getting into this new universe because I read enough superheroes. I want to read something else. And I think that's why eventually they all went away.
Well, and they went
because
they
when
went
your
too
money
fast.
shrank,
every month were 4 new books. That was too much.
Well, Valiant was the same way when it restarted because, okay, we're going to start with X-O Man of War. And then within 6 months, they had 12 books. And they weren't as interconnected as they used to be, but they were still same universe kind of connected-y. And it's, really? That's an extra, 12 books times $4. It's an extra $48 a month. I don't want to invest another $50 in a new universe. I think another problem a lot of these new universes get is if you look at the creator names, it's very much the same people. It's the people who wrote the midline books at Marvel, then went over, did some midline books at DC, and now they've moved over and they're doing books at these other companies. They may have been okay at Marvel or DC when they were playing with everybody else, but they never impressed me enough to go, oh yeah, I need to follow him over to another company.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jonathan Hickman, if he goes to another company, although he said he's just going to do creator-owned stuff, I'm going to follow him. If he were to go over to Valiant, I'd go, well, I don't know, maybe, kind of, sort of. Mark Waid, he's done that. He's gone to other superhero universes, and while they're okay, it doesn't have the resonance of when he's working at Marvel and DC, because Marvel and DC have all that history he can draw on to build new toys. I think if you're going to be a comic creator, you're going to be a new publisher, what you have to do is do something different. It used to be, you're a new publisher, the first thing you do, you'd gather up some licenses. Which is why Evil Dead and Army of Darkness has been at like 6 or 7 different companies. Oh, if we have Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, that'll get us some attention. People come to our other books. Well, they found out it doesn't quite work that way, and the license is played out because how many dozens of Army of Darkness comics have there been? And Joe, do you even pay attention anymore?
Not really. I mean, I picked up the Vampirilla Army of Darkness crossover. It's okay.
You and I talked about the movie tie-ins that I forget whatever company was putting out, like Big Trouble in Little China and all those.
I think that was Boom for a while.
Whoever's got them now, they're only, they're at the bottom of the top 300 because it's, yeah, well, Even Buffy, when they did Buffy season 8, it was so big that Dark Horse would actually send out an email alert if it was going to be delayed by a week. Because people would come in and be so angry that it wasn't there. Now they don't even know if they're going to do another season of Buffy because the sales just, nobody cares anymore.
That's funny because my daughter and my wife are getting into Buffy.
Well, X-Files season 10. That comic ended with a whimper. I don't even think it sold 10,000 copies. So I think the days of, we'll get a license and the license will get us attention, I think those days are up. I think you need to have creators who are known, like Brian K. Vaughan or Mark Waid or Kieran Gillen or people like that, who are going to come and say, all right, I'm going to do something new. I've got an idea, I've got a vision, I've got something like Saga, I've got something like We Stand on Guard, or something like The Dead and the Dying, where it's a creator people know who's going to put out something they haven't seen before.
And that might be the strength of Image. A little bit of IDW.
IDW does it from time to time.
Yeah, more. I think that's probably why they picked up their top shelf.
Yes. Although, I'm about to freak you out, Joe.
Uh-oh.
I have discovered that there's a comic I have to buy that it'll kind of freak you out that I'm buying it.
Well, it's a good thing I'm wearing pants.
Are you sitting down?
Hang on. I lied. I'm always sitting down.
I'm going to have to buy the Transformers versus G.I. Joe trade paperbacks.
I'm sorry, Cory. There was a breakup, and I think we got cross-circuited to another dimension. What? Could you repeat that, please?
I have to buy the Transformers versus G.I. Joe trade paperbacks.
Okay. Okay, I was going to say wait till next episode to tell us why, but no, damn it, tell us why.
Tom Scioli, who does very Kirby-influenced art and did the brilliant Godland comic, has been drawing it.
Ooh.
And, it's Transformers versus G.I. Joe. I wasn't paying any attention to it at all because neither property I care about in any way. But he's been posting a lot of his art on his Instagram and his Facebook page and everything. And it's, oh, wow, that's so good. His art is so good that I almost don't care what the story is. I just and I'm like that with some artists. If Jim Sternenko did a Highlander comic, I'd buy it, even though I think Highlander's one of the dumbest media properties in history. It's Jim Sternenko. I got to buy it.
Sure. Part of the army.
So have you been buying Transformers versus G.I. Joe?
Nope.
Okay. Because I was going to say, am I going to be able to make heads or tails out of it?
Yeah, well, no. You thought like a Legion of Superhero versus any Image property superhero crossover would be decipherable. Nope, not going to happen.
Do you think DC will ever bring back the Legion of Superheroes show?
I don't know about that. You'd think they would. Money in the bank, people.
I don't know if it's Money in the Bank. They tried all. What is it? They did the Mark Waid reboot.
Well, they brought Shooter in.
Yep, and then Shooter finished that up, and then they tried. I think since Infinite Crisis, they did three reboots, and none of them got any traction. And it's just, I'm wondering if, because it's so big, and the fan base has been along, I don't know if you could do the reboot where, okay, we're going to start with the main three and then build out from there. Because so many people will have, the only people who are interested are the ones who know all the characters in the first place.
Is that the Strodetron 3000 in the background?
Yes, someone is calling me.
Well, curse them anyways.
Yeah, I know. Normally
Who calls? Usually just text. I mean, geez, you got some really backwards friends.
I had one friend who Friday called me like 3 different times. I was at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I get to my locker, and oh my God, I got 3 phone calls. Oh, all from this person. And they left messages.
Wow.
And it was, wow, not only did you call, you left a message. What is this, 1998?
Going backwards.
Most people I know, if I call them, unless it's something complicated, they get annoyed. They go, you could have sent me a text.
Yeah,
or you could have sent a Facebook message. Or you could have, emailed me. Although more and more people are like, why did you email me? I don't read emails. Yeah, Legion of Superheroes. Do you think there's a way that...
Damn, I almost had him back derailed.
Do you think there's a way they could bring it back, and if so, how?
No idea. I mean, the problem is it's like anything, reboot. How long will it be until we see the things we want to see, and how badly are you going to mess them up? We want to see, what was his name? Wildstar? The guy in the containment suit?
Yeah.
I like Block. I always liked that character. How do you tie it in with Superboy, Supergirl? Or do you? Or don't you? How long till they time travel back and discover everything's messed up and not the way they think it is? How long till they cross over and meet somebody else? Blah, 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 yakety, yakety.
Yakety yak, don't talk back.
I mean, look at Doctor Who. They brought Doctor Who back after everybody thought it was dead. I don't know what you could do with Legion.
One of the things about the Doctor Who reboot that I found very interesting was they didn't take a lot of time to fill you in on what came before. They treated it like a whole new series, and then over time kind of went, oh, okay, well, there is a history. We're just not going to refer to it unless it's needed for that story. Or it's an anniversary where we're going to kind of wallow in our history.
Well, and that's not even necessarily true, because the first episode had the Autons in them.
Yeah.
And I had no idea who they were because I'd never seen a Doctor Who episode with them. And that dates back at least to the 4th Doctor, maybe before. So there were but you didn't need to know that in order to understand what was going on.
Exactly.
You got things introduced as they went along. So yeah, if you did it like that, maybe, but I think it suffers from reboot exhaustion. I'm having fun with Secret Wars because it's kind of cool. They're not reintroducing everything, or there's, okay, here's the new Doctor Doom and why he failed terribly against the current Fantastic Four. It's characters we've seen, known, and maybe enjoyed, and now they're in a new situation. So you just accept the fact that, yeah, there's X-Men Inferno, X-Men Age of Apocalypse, X-Men 92. I don't like X-Men 92, so I didn't pick up that series. So you just kind of go with that.
Every so often I think, I dropped the X-Men after Age of Apocalypse, and I didn't pick it up again till, Grant Morrison took over. One of these days I should just sit down and Marvel Unlimited and read those. And then I'll read an article about something really, 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 really stupid that was done during that time period and go, no, I think I made the right decision.
Yep. Yeah, let her roll.
You know who else lets it roll, Joe?
Who's that?
These guys, our sponsors. This podcast, and all the other podcasts that we have on the Solitaire Rose Network, has sponsors. And our sponsors are, first, as always, our beloved DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com is the best web host in the whole known universe. You need a website. Come on, you need a website. If you're going to set up a store, if you're going to start writing, if you're going to start drawing, if you're going to start creating, if you're going to start selling, you need a website. So go to DreamHost.com, use the code CRAZY, and get $20 off your first year. We have a new sponsor. That sponsor is Flaviar, Flaviar. Just go to the Solitaire Rose podcast website at crazycomics.solitairerose.com, where we're inviting you to join. It's a discovery service for spirits aficionados. You gain access to fine spirits at members-only prices. And if you use our link, you get a $10 credit when you join. Finally, if you're listening to this podcast, you are a good-looking person. And as a good-looking person, you cannot trust your skin to just any old razor. That's why we invite you to shave with the amazing razors from Dollar Shave Club. Every month, they send a box with your shave options. At the beginning of the week, you pop in a fresh blade, get that fresh blade shave. It feels fantastic. It's just one of the many ways that I maintain my good looks, and you can maintain your good looks. So join us at the Dollar Shave Club. Their plans start at $3 a month, and they have a money-back guarantee. So if you want to join, just go to www.dollarshaveclub.com/crazy. We love feedback. So if you'd like to give us feedback, you can send us an email at cory.strode@gmail.com, or you can call our voice line at 952-856-0519. Send us an email, drop us a message. We'll put you on the air. We'll answer your question. We love to interact with our fans. We've also got Facebook pages for the Solitaire Rose podcast, for the Crazy Comics and Stories podcast, and the upcoming Solitaire Rose novelcast. So go to Facebook, be our friend. We love friends. If you would like to advertise on Crazy Comics and Stories, Solitaire Rose Radio, or the upcoming Solitaire Rose novelcast, you can just send an email to cory.strode@gmail.com, subject advertising. Thanks.
Cool.
Notice we have a new sponsor there.
We did.
Yeah. Flavinar. I'm probably mispronouncing that.
I was going to say, that doesn't even sound good. But what are they doing?
Well, what it is, let me pull them up on the internets here. Flaviar, FLAVIAR.com. What it is, they are a discovery service for spirits aficionados. Joe, do you know what spirits are?
Isn't that hard alcohol?
Yes. They are a delivery service. Every month you sign up and they will send you samples of new hooch, new booze, new great, wonderful drinks that you can try. They have tasting packs, and if you like anything in the tasting pack, you can get a bottle. Like, let's see, this month for $44.99, they have 5 flavors of scotch. Or you could sign up for the Star Spangled Bourbon. The rum selection, which is Here There Be Pirates. Rye, if you like your rye whiskey, they have Rye Volution. Then they have some that's a mix of all of them. If you're into gin, they have Gin Lane, 5 different gins, cognac, cocktails, and tequilas. So you can sign up and they will send you a sample. And then if you like anything in the sample, you could buy it straight from them.
Bad news.
We're wanting to get our listeners drunk.
Bad news, everybody.
Sad news, everyone.
Well, you know, the Midwest Comic Book Association is presenting Fall Comic-Con, the comic book party, on October 10th, 2015, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's the one-day wonder, 420 minutes of extreme comic book action. And I happen to know that they've actually updated their website, which, as you and I know, is www.mcbacons.com. And if you hold on a moment here as I try to activate the Kray-ometer.
I thought you were going to say, excuse me while I whip this out.
Well, I would, but then you would know I'm not wearing pants.
We already know that.
No, I said I was wearing pants this week. Do you know who Ron Wilson is?
Why, yes, I do. He did a lot of work on Marvel 2-in-1 that I love.
He's going to be at the FallCon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. He's joined Marvel in 1973. He's done Black Goliath, Power Man, Hulk, Captain Britain, Masters of the Universe, Wolfpack, Avengers, Captain America, Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, Iron Man, Ghost Rider, FF, Daredevil, What If. So did a bunch of sketch cards, too, for the complete Avengers and DC Legacy cards. So dig out those comics. He'll be there signing. Brent Schoonover will be there. Gordon Purcell, Doug Mankey, Dan Jurgens, Pat Gleason, all of our local favorite guys. And they've got everything lined up. It's looking good. They got some of the vendors lined up too. And if you ever want to see a picture of Smiling Pat, just go to their main page, because every con I would take a picture of Pat for the vending. And because he was always having his final.
Is he having a final sale this year?
Nope, he's not there. He's done.
Uh-huh.
So
I don't believe it.
Anyways, he's got a picture of him when you go to vendors. He's smiling behind. So it's all there. The MCBAComiccons.com. But here's the sad news, everybody. Now, Cory, you and I got a table there, don't we?
Yes, we do. We will be podcasting and having some fun.
What's this we, Paleface?
You, me, we, all of us?
That's the bad news. I have yet to secure that day off of work.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Usually things fall into place, but it's not looking good this time around. And I made the mistake of actually asking for the day off.
Oh, how dare you, sir.
If I actually call in and I'm sick, they'll know I'm faking it. So it's going to be a podcast of one. But fear not, I still got a few weeks to figure something out. Master time travel, bribery.
I was going to say bribery.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Not that I want to put the pressure on. You know how much Cory loves doing solo podcasts.
Cory just likes talking.
Yeah, there is that.
What a doofus.
Yeah, doofus.
Well, and what's going on the eBays?
Cory, it's time for another edition of Ask the Strode.
Uh-oh. What does this have to do with eBay?
Cory, who is Vampirella?
Vampirella is a character created by Forrest Ackerman in 1969 for Warren Publications. At the time, Warren Publications was in financial trouble. They were putting out magazines that were mostly reprint. Famous Monsters, Creepy and Eerie, and because they were reprints, that the kids recognized they weren't buying them as much, so sales on all of them were trending down. Ackerman came to Warren and said, well, we need to do new stuff, and he thought up an idea for a female vampire with the hokiest, stupidest origin you've ever read. Thankfully, they got rid of it pretty quickly. And because it was a sexy woman on the cover of a magazine, and they had new horror stories, they would have a Vampirella story and then some backup horror stories. Sales rebounded. Sales got good enough that Warren could start bringing in new writers and new artists. So you had an influx of Spanish artists because of the exchange rate and everything. They were able to get a lot of European artists to work very, very cheap. And they had a lot of young writers who then went on to work at Marvel and DC, like Len Wein, Marv Wolfman, Don McGregor, Doug Mensch. Matter of fact, Doug Mensch at one point was writing so many stories that I think there was one period where Doug Mensch wrote half the stories in the Warren mags. But Vampirella was the character that kicked that off. And from the first issue on, Vampirella was always Warren's best-selling character.
It came back in '83 under Harris Publications. And I think...
Yeah, that was kind of messy.
Kind of lasted till about 2007. And they Harris also published the Vampirella 113, which is a one-issue continuation of the original series, which contained, I think, reprints.
And there were lawsuits around that because Harris thought he had bought the rights. And James Warren, who had actually dropped out of sight, it was no one knows the whole story. He just says that he got very sick. Warren just kind of quit showing up at the publishing at the offices, and then when the money ran out, people just, okay, I'm not getting paid, I quit, I leave, and the Warren magazines just kind of went away, and they sold everything from the warehouse to one person who thought when he bought the warehouse, he bought the rights to Vampirella, Creepy, and Eerie. So that's why he started publishing Vampirella books. Little known facts.
Currently, Vampirella is being published by Dynamite Entertainment. And how this has to do with eBay? Well, I've reached into the depths of my vast accumulation of crap or stuff. And in this case, it might be stuff. And I have me a whole heaping load of Vampirella Dynamite variant covers. A lot of the blood red, the various black ones. I'm going to put them on, and I've done what I've always done. I researched the prices, what they're going for, and I'm going to price them cheaper. So if you're looking for one of them odd-core reprints, the auction should just be ending up as we speak here, because we'll post this thing probably, where are we now? Right before Labor Day, so probably on drop it the week after, and these auctions...
It'll be posted on the 14th.
Yep, and these auctions should be just finishing up by then. I've got a couple ones that are really interesting that I didn't even find on eBay, and they're actually some of the Harris ones. There's one that's a Vampirella Mike Mayhew sketchbook where he actually autographed it. Comes with a certificate of authenticity and everything. I've got a Julie Strain special with her straining to keep that Vampirella costume on. This is a weird foil edition. And then I have me, from Dynamite, one of the Vampirella Strikes #1, a high-end Virgin Ultra Limited photo cover. It's so rare that it's not even in Atomic Avenue. And it just has the gorgeous bottle they were using for their Vampirella Strikes. And I know some of the other ones are going upwards of $100. I have no idea how much this baby's going to go. I don't even know where the heck I got this thing. So, but if you're into Vampirella, check out my eBay store, Crazy, Krayz. I've also been repricing a lot of things that haven't sold, and probably sometime this month I'll do another 99-cent wonder where I'm just blowing out all these variant covers. And I've got a couple other things, if you want to pause a second here. Because, of course, stupid me put it way on the other side of the damn basement. I didn't even think about it. Cory, you've heard of Carmine Infantino?
Why, yes, I have.
I have me a hardcover, The Amazing World of Carmine Infantino, which is double signed by Carmen. This was originally the limited signed edition hardcover because I went through a big phase back then when I just loved those signed limited hardcovers. So he not only signed it, but then when I met him at an CBA con, he re-signed it, and then I also got the Ghost Rider to sign it. So that's on eBay, and if you hear it and you're interested, go check it out. And as usual, if you do win something from me, let me know, and I will just randomly reach out like this and grab something of my vast accumulation of highly desirable collectibles and give it to you for free. Or ship it to you free. I don't know. We'll do something fun just as a thank you for buying for me and being one of our and their listeners.
Well, if we're all done with that.
Well, I could go on, but there's other things to do.
That's right. You know what we need to do?
Clean our pants.
Freaking and geeking, everybody. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Did you hear of Force Friday?
Yes, I did.
I heard it sucked.
I am not into Star Wars toys or any of that. I already have the movies, so I don't need these steel books. The only thing I was remotely interested in was the new Star Wars novel that came out.
And I'm sure if you go on eBay, you could probably find it.
Well, and it's available on Amazon and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I've heard a couple things from it. First of all, the deal was to get things excited at midnight. Certain retailers would open their doors, and they had all this new Star Wars stuff. Some of them, like the Disney store, had exclusive things they give away where you could get an exclusive Star Wars Lego piece. Not a set, just a piece. They're going for about $10 on eBay, so if you really want one, you could probably find one. One of the guys online said he didn't go to Target or Toys R Us or any of those places, but he went to Walmart and was able to score everything he wanted in terms of action figures. So if you're interested, they're out there. Our old scrub, Jess Heitland, he got one of the, what's that robot on the beach ball? Apparently there's robots you can buy, and they'll run around the house. And
oh, okay.
So he was charging it up last night. He was pretty happy. But I didn't get my butt up, and I've heard more reports of people being disappointed because they stood in line for hours, and then they went in, and the Lego sets were too high priced. By the time they got to the action figures, they were gone. Retailers, again, woefully underestimated just the amount they had. The one event I remember back when Episode 1 came out, and Toys R Us did that, where at midnight we could all run in, and it was actually pretty good. I mean, there were a lot of people, there were a lot of toys. Everybody who wanted a set was able to get one, but there were reports at the other places where first person in bought all of a certain figure and walked out with them. So, and of course, unless these figures are exclusive, which I don't think they will be, they're probably on eBay now. Wait a week, they'll probably drop. Wait a week, they'll get restocked. So, and like I said, I'm curious. Like I've been watching the eBay Lego piece because it just seemed kind of silly, but there might be some other cool exclusives out there. But as we know, the Force has awakened. That's pretty much it. Other than that, I really got nothing I'm freaking on. Cory, what you be freaking on?
Well, I talked a little about it earlier. Butch and I helped Jen move into her apartment on what felt like the hottest day in the history of mankind.
Hot.
So much carrying. One thing that I've talked about it a little on the podcast, but one of the things that happens to me with all the blood pressure medication, because my blood pressure was very, very high and now it's normal, but if I stand up too fast, I get very dizzy, which happened to me a lot when I was a kid too. And then it went away because, well, your blood pressure's high. That's not going to happen. Well, it happens again now. Now, when you're bringing stuff into an apartment up a flight of stairs, you're going to be, bending down and putting stuff down. And so there were a lot of times where I would be walking along, put something down, walk a little ways, and I go, Butch, yeah, give me a minute. Okay. And we're outside, and I had picked something up that was real heavy and carried it and came down and came and sat down, and Butch said, you okay? I said, did it just get really, really dark? No. Okay, then I think I've had a stroke.
Yep.
Let's see. I will tell this story from the so-called full-time job. One of the clients I'm on, they're supposed to have a database so we can find the answers to whatever questions people would ask. Somebody says, well, what happens if I do this? We should be able to find an answer so we can tell them. On one of the clients, you go to the FAQ list, frequently asked questions list, and there were 4 questions, 2 of which had answers. So after my first month there, I said, one way for me to kind of learn about this client would be to put together the FAQ list based on whatever documentation we have. So my supervisor sent me the documentation, and when I wasn't busy taking calls, or one of the things that's hard for me is if I get interrupted a lot. So there could be a time when I'm not taking a call, but there aren't many people to take calls. So I'm not going to work on it then, because if there aren't many people to take calls, I'm going to get a call. And it's horrible when you're typing along and then all of a sudden your screen goes weird, and then the call shows up on the screen, and it's, shit, I was in the middle of something and now I won't remember where I was. So it took about 2 months. And I procrastinated a little bit because it was very far out of my job description, something I wasn't supposed to do. So I get it done. On a Friday, I send it to her. A week ahead of the deadline we had agreed on. I don't get an acknowledgement that she got it. Don't get an acknowledgement if it's okay. Don't hear anything. The next week, she sends out an email. I just want to let you know that we've added a bunch of stuff to the blah, blah, blah client database, including a brand new FAQ and this and that and the other that I have put together.
Ah.
My name wasn't mentioned. And I was a little irritated by this. So I sent a message to her, because I'm a temp but I don't care, said, I'm really glad you didn't give me any credit for the FAQ I worked on for 2 months, because I'd hate it if people knew how much work I put in on it, because I'm modest like that. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot it.
Uh-huh.
And all I could think was, I really don't care about this job, because if I did, I certainly would not have sent that message to someone who just yanked credit away from me publicly. Other than that, I'm recovering from the stress of helping my friend move, because even though to other people it's like, well, you didn't do anything. No, I did a lot of running around. I did a lot of this. I did that. And I was really nervous that I would screw it up, because I'm like that. So everything went off fairly well, and now she's in her apartment, and I can go back to, staring at the wall and reading comic books. Joe, what are you geeking on? What are you loving?
Well, we went to the state fair the day before.
Our state fair is a great state fair. It is.
It was equally as hot. The only difference is on Tuesday there was no sun.
And you drank.
I drank. I discovered not your father's root beer. When I went to the fair.
Did you see any Wheaties beer? I still need to get my hands on some Wheaties beer.
That is going to be a local phenomenon, so we're going to have to watch it carefully.
I got to find it.
But I went to the fair. Dana was working there. She works for an outfit called Urban Boat Builders. Have I talked about that before?
In case you want to sail your boat around on the street.
Well, yeah, I might need to, the way some of the weird weather's been going. But Urban Boat Builders is basically one of those organizations where troubled youth go. They learn a skill, how to build a boat. Dana works as I'm not sure what she's doing there. I know she helps with the grant writing and some of the other things that go on. It's kind of a low paid type deal. If she sticks it out for a year, they'll forgive X amount of her student loan. So it's kind of a neat thing. It helps her. It helps the kids. They have as soon as the glaciers melt, you might be wishing you knew how to build a boat. So she was there. Some friends were there. So once we got together, it was kind of like herding cats. I want to go this way. Let's go this way. Well, what about ye old mill? Blah, blah, blah. I had the worst headache. It didn't go away with ibuprofen, didn't go away with beer, didn't go with eating, didn't go with walking, with water, blah, blah, blah. So, it's like 80 degrees with 80% humidity, and my head's throbbing. And I try some of this Not Your Father's Root Beer, and it was really good. And as I walked away from the booth, I suddenly realized, hey, my headache's going away.
Oh, no.
I'll be right back. And I had me my own glass. After that, I basically just drank my way across the fairgrounds. And it led me, it's easy to do because different places they serve beers, and then Minnesota has a wing in the agriculture building that's dedicated to local breweries. And you can go in, you can buy a sampler. The International Bazaar has a place where you can buy a sampler from Summit Brewery. Across from the agriculture building is Minnesota Wineries. You can buy a sampler there. And so we were sampling quite a bit. And, of course, I did stop by, say hi to Gabby at 1919 Root Beer booth. And, it made me wonder, what did I do at the fair before I could drink myself across it? I did stop, pick up myself some Z-coils. Google it. It's a boot. Well, I got the tennis shoe version because I didn't want to spend the money for the boot, but it's got the big spring in the back, and it's really nice, especially if you got to stand on a hard floor all day like I do. And, of course, I got me some Sweet Martha cookies. If you don't know what they are, they're the best chocolate chip cookies in the universe. They come in a big pail, and, of course, the pail is it's a pretty small pail, but they load it about 3 times as high, so you got to eat a lot of cookies in order to be able to get the cover onto the top of the bucket. And I ate me through the first bucket, and then when Holly went to the fair on Saturday, it was under the proviso that she buys me a bucket of Sweet Martha cookies, which she did, so I still have them. And I have to eat them all today because then they start hardening up. So had some fun at the fair. The birds and the bees were there. And tomorrow's Labor Day. It's supposed to be nice and cool. I might go back. I don't know. We're just having fun with it. TV-wise, in the rerun world, I've got my wife watching Star Trek Next Generation. We're slowly going through different ones. I'm kind of going through, picking out some of the better episodes. We went through a bunch of Q episodes. We jumped forward to the one in Voyager, where he helps the one Q commit suicide. Just started to do a run on the Worf thing where he's dishonored, and I think we'll just go through all that Civil War thing. We did hop forward. I showed her the 2-part where Spock was in it, so she's kind of enjoying it. A lot of these she's seen because we watched them, or she watched them, or she's vaguely aware of them, so that's kind of fun. Cory, have you ever been to Hell's Club?
I feel like every time I go to a club, it's hell.
Go to YouTube. Type in Hell's Club. Talk about master editing. Some dude flawlessly combined dozens of famous characters ranging from like Tony Montana to The Mask to The Terminator to Star Wars into one coherent dance club scene. It is so crazy. Cory, you being a movie aficionado, you're going to go crazy over this because you're going to see things like, it's from that movie. It's from that movie. It's just phenomenal. Hell's Club, new mashup. Check it out. I couldn't believe it. And this is probably the first time I'm ahead of the curve on something that's been on YouTube. Because usually I find out about it like, years afterwards. Hey, this is pretty cool. And my daughter gives me one of those, Welcome to the 2000s, Dad. Comic-wise, I didn't really read a lot of comics. Lando, All-Star Section 8, Minimum Wage number 4. Loved them. I don't recall if I talked about these last week. Shield number 9, which is a double size. I think I did talk about that one. I finally read through the double size, including the reprint of the first appearance of Shield. Bizarro number 3, which is just phenomenally the good, the bad, and the stupid. And I got all 3 parts of the 4 Doctors crossover that Cory talked about last week, and I will second him on that. It is real fun. It's witty. You almost wish it was a regular episode. I'm wondering how many times you're going to dip to the let's get all the Doctors together, because it's almost like the Galactus story in Marvel. You know, you have to do a story where the Doctors come together. And this one's cool. I picked up the photo covers because I love me my photo covers. That's really about it. The only other thing really is my Simpsons tapped out game seems to be working properly. So if you've got a bitch you wish to air, just send it to Cory and I. We'll air it on our podcast, and apparently you'll get results.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe they're listening to us, or maybe they just got so many people belly aching.
I pretty much will go with that. So Hell's Club. Pause right now before Cory geeks and check it out. You'll love it.
You never want anybody to hear my geeks.
Well, I do. I just want them to come back. All right, Cory, what are you geeking on? What's got you happy, fun, excited?
After almost a year of waiting, the final issue of the Eltingville Club by Evan Dorkin has come out.
Yes.
It was heartbreaking and funny and mean and amazing and so much better than I thought it would be. And one of the things that I don't like when independent creators decide they're going to mock comic book fans is how they really go for the stereotypes in a way that to me feels cruel and like kicking somebody when they're down. It's one of the reasons why Dan Close, I know he's a very talented creator. I know some of his work is very good, but when he does I'm going to make fun of comic book fans, it just feels mean to me. It feels like, feels like beating up a 3-year-old when a lot of creators do it. Dorkin is able to do it in a way that's both mean and funny, and in a way kind of affectionate for how some people in our hobby just have no ability to interact with human beings in any way whatsoever. It was a fun comic. I don't know why it took so long, other than the fact that Evan Dorkin's art, when he takes his time on it, is frail and amazing. The art is amazing in this. There's huge levels of detail, huge levels of just it's so good. It's so good. Go pick up issues 1 and 2. Even if you haven't read any Evan Dorkin before, even if you're just a fan of Milk and Cheese, go pick this stuff up. Evan Dorkin is one of these guys who I am just shocked that when his stuff comes out, it's not top 50 selling books, that he has to struggle to sell comics, because his stuff is just so funny and so true and so good. And just go buy it. Don't ask, just buy it.
Do it now. We'll be here when you get back.
The other book that has come back digitally, and I could not be happier, is Ralph Snart Adventures. Now Comics, which basically did a bunch of media tie-in stuff back in the late 80s, early 90s, had one creator who did original stuff, Mark Hansen. He did a book called Dr. Gorfon, but he did Ralph Snart Adventures. And the idea of Ralph Snart Adventures is this regular guy has weird, he's being experimented on by scientists and aliens and all this stuff. But then we go into his dreams while this is happening, so that each one is a different situation. He's a guy who likes to drink beer and ends up in weird situations. There's no other comic like it, and it's just odd and funny. And to promote the book, the creator has been tweeting as Ralph Snart. Every morning he puts out a new tweet. It's about working in an office and wanting to either get drunk in the office or leave work to get drunk. And it's weird how funny he's able to be within those tiny parameters. But Ralph Snart, it's available digitally on Comixology. Really, really fun stuff. I finally have had time, now that the chaos is done, to watch some movies and DVDs. I watched the second Dalek story from Doctor Who. I think it's called the Earth Invasion by the Daleks. It was the last story with Carol Ann, the Doctor's granddaughter. And for their limited budget, they really pulled off a decent looking show. You really felt like Earth had been conquered by the Daleks. And this was 1964 this came out?
Mm-hmm.
And I can see why kids went crazy for the Daleks and why they loved the Daleks so much. And the DVD has some features that I enjoy. The one feature I really enjoy on the older Doctor Who DVDs is the commentary. They have, you know how you can set for subtitles? They have regular subtitles and they have commentary subtitles where they say, all right, in this scene you'll see they made this mistake. Or this is how they had to film this sort of thing. And it was a good Saturday afternoon serial to just sit and watch and enjoy. And then I finally saw the movie A Walk Among the Tombstones, which is based on a book by Lawrence Block, one of my favorite writers. And the movie came out and just did nothing. If you like detective stories, A Walk Among the Tombstones is really good. Liam Neeson plays an alcoholic detective who left the police force. What a shock. It's not like that character's unique or anything, but the plot has enough twists and turns, and it's an actual detective story where you see him putting in the work to figure out what's going on. TV-wise, I have not been watching much other than New Japan Pro Wrestling. They show it on Access Television, AXT. It's one of the digital high-def channels. Used to be HD Net. Friday nights they show an hour of stuff from about a year ago. They showed a lot of the big matches from last year's G1 Climax tournament, which is their annual tournament that takes place over like 14 days. And every night there's matches, and whoever has the most wins. But you've got really good wrestlers, and it's a good way to get to know the New Japan style and the New Japan wrestlers. New Japan works with Ring of Honor because their styles are very similar. And if you like Ring of Honor, and if you're a wrestling fan, you need to be watching Ring of Honor. You got to. I mean, come on. What's your problem? New Japan has a very similar style, and it's really good. Other than that, I just recovering from the week where I worked way too much, and then the days where I moved Jen into her apartment. But I did get my check from the week I worked way too much, Joe.
Ooh.
And you know how they kind of had to beg me to do those 5 days in a row?
Mm-hmm.
They did not give me the sleep rate for those days.
Oh.
So I made about $150 more than I thought I would.
Ooh.
Which is good because when I went to get the headlight assemblies put in my car,
dun, dun, dun.
They said, oh, it'll take an hour. Oh, okay. Well, do you want to hang out here? No, I'll go over to the little strip mall there. I haven't gone to the used video game store in a while. I'll go get a soda, and then I'll come back. So I go over there. I go get a soda. I come back. It only took me half hour. Car was done. Only took a half hour.
Cool.
They charged me for an hour of labor.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
If I ever wanted to just be an evil bastard, I should get into owning a car repair place. Bastards. And here it is. We're recording this on a Sunday afternoon. They called and asked if I would come into work tonight, and I'm not going into work tonight. I don't work the rest of today, and I don't work tomorrow.
Cool.
I don't know what I'm going to do with all this spare time, Joe.
And cash.
Oh, wait, look, there's a pile of comics.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been in my living room. You've seen the pile of DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
Screw humanity. I'm not getting off the couch for the next 2 days. So I'll have a lot to report on next week.
Cool.
Let's see, were there any other comics that really jumped out at me that I went, ooh?
I went, hey, Strode, here I am.
Let's see. Now I'm still reading the Doctor Who thing. Oh, Ant-Man, The Last Days. You know how I've been talking about how much I like Ant-Man?
Mm-hmm.
They did a kind of a special issue because the books that did not turn into Battle World books, they're doing what did the characters do as the universe ended. And with Ant-Man, we get a really nice revelation as to the person behind his security company, the person who's been putting up the money for his security company. Really nice continuity tie-in, really good story. And I love this book. It reminds me so much of the Superior Foes of Spider-Man. It's that same sort of style. If you're not reading Ant-Man, go pick up, they're going to be putting out a trade paperback. Pick it up, then when it starts over again, pick it up too. It's a lot like Daredevil and Hawkeye, where it's superhero, it's set in the superhero universe, but it's more about a regular guy in a superhero universe, which is what I always liked about Marvel. Marvel was always the idea of what if a regular person, a person, what if you or a regular person got superpowers? Not like Bruce Wayne, who's the greatest fighter in the world, or Superman, who's the greatest this, or Green Lantern, who's the bravest man in the universe. Nope, these are just regular people who have they're heroes with problems. And it's why these books are so good. They go back to that Marvel formula of heroes with problems. Well, kids, believe it or not, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for an hour and a half.
And don't think we don't appreciate it.
And again, we're back on Monday, so please listen to this and waste your employer's time. We also may have a new sponsor soon. Joe, do you know what my sponsorship plan is?
No.
Well, the show's about 90 minutes long, right?
Yeah, we try to keep it down, but it still stays up.
And most of our ads are like about a minute long, right?
Yes, when you listen to the podcast, they're a minute long. Yes.
My plan is to sell 90 ads every episode. Think people will still listen?
Go for it.
Okay. As we say every week, kids, the comics we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
If you make people think they're thinking, they'll love you. But if you really make them think, they'll hate you. Harlan Ellison. Cory, hit my music.
Funk is on a roll. Funk is on a roll. Hey, y'all. Can somebody call my mama? It's about to get funky up in here. Know what I'm saying? Somebody call my mama. Somebody call my mama. Somebody call my mama. What you say? Somebody please call my mama. Somebody call my mama. Somebody call my mama. Say somebody call my mama. Get me. Somebody please call my mama. What you say?